Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Curtis Cottle, who's the founder of SBC Financial, and we'll be talking about Social Security timing and strategy. Curtis, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Hey, I'm excited to talk with you because it's always neat to hear different people's perspectives from their experience with clients on the topics. And I know that this is a broad one, Social Security timing and the strategy behind it. But before we dive into that, give us a little bit of your story and background and how did you get into the financial services industry?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So for me, it just seemed like I always wanted to be self-employed. I had ever since I was young, and I had a pretty influential fifth grade teacher, Mr. Emery, and it was a public school, but he had a waiting list for his class because he decided to teach his kids in a very cool fashion about economics, and he was kind of into real estate and rental properties, and in addition to him being a fifth grade teacher, and he taught his class how to be a worker. You can be an assembly line worker or a supervisor, and then what we would be doing is creating money, our own little, what they call Emery money. And it was paper money that circulated throughout the school. And then the next phase is we would all in his class be able to start our own businesses. And so some of the kids around the school can bring in the inventory and get their Emery money. And it was real currency. You could buy people's lunches from each other. It was kind of a cool situation. And all the classes would come through our class, Mr. Emery's class. And we would all have our businesses running, and it could be baked goods, a service, an entertainment, buy inventory from what the school brought in and resell it. And you really got a full feel and look of application of what it was like to run your own business in both the potential as well as the effort. And yeah. So I think that made a big mark on me, but I've always felt like I want to be self-employed, and I interviewed real estate industry and a few other ones, and I really landed on finance and investments and wealth management for a lot of reasons, and I just found the most meaning there. Started SBC Financial 2008, so probably not the best year to start an investment firm, but I did, and it worked real hard, and I have a particular expertise in helping people grow money with a real strong element of safety and hedge. And you can imagine 2008 timeframe, that was pretty popular. So I had a lot of clients say, Curtis, hey, just lost $200,000. I need to do something different. We started growing. I hired on my brother, Tyler, he was going to be a CPA. He got his accounting degree from Grand Valley University. And that was about 3 years in. So about maybe 14 years ago or so. And he said he's going to be CPA. I said, hey, we really need this in our industry. There's not a lot of tax planning. CPAs are too busy to do much tax planning. They do all of their time filing, and not a lot of financial advisors are in that space. So we built a tax reduction planning department. We started hiring staff, built several other departments, estate planning, income planning. Of course, we had our asset management planning, and then in Medicare and health insurance division. So that's kind of where we are today, where we can help clients and have no need unmet in any part of the plan.
I love it. And I love from that the beginnings in your fifth grade class with that project, that seed of entrepreneurialism had to have been in you from the get-go, maybe latent anyway, because I'll bet every single kid in that class is not an entrepreneur, but it was in you. He fanned that flame, and it's neat to see where that came and how that's developed. And so now let's dive into this topic today, Social Security timing. I know that's a really powerful topic. And I know that for me, I've heard for the last 2-3 decades, literally, Social Security is going to run out of money. So I know that's the common concern. So it is something that, tends to be on people's mind. How do you coach your clients on helping them to realize, okay, Social Security you might hear a headline, but let's make the plan no matter what before we dive into kind of some more of the strategies and things. What do you say to clients that have that concern?
Yeah, that is a great question and probably a valid concern if you listen to Mike, what you exactly said, the headlines. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the news and you hear a lot about Social Security in the news, and you think, well, am I listening to positive or negative news? And usually you'll find, oh yeah, I'm listening to negative news. That seems to be the majority of what I hear on Social Security is negativity in the news. And then if you start to think about anything in the news, you start to think, well, man, I'm really hearing more negative than positive on almost any topic in the news. So it's hard to sometimes get an objective look at the Social Security program, the financial stability, or just a clear look at what it really is in a position to do or not do. And so what we do, and we do this a lot in our classes, we do quite a lot of classes on how to claim Social Security and maximize, probably about 12 to 14 classes every single month, both virtually and in person. And the thing about it is if you look at the Social Security Trust Fund, you can actually look up those numbers online, and you can see how many trillions of dollars are in the trust fund. They grow at a very special type of investment, a certain security that is designed specifically for Social Security. Nobody else can get their hands on that type of investment. It's a very competitive fixed rate. And so there's a lot of aspects to that. You can see what the numbers before the year prior, you can see the current numbers. If you look at the history of it, you'll find we've only had a deficit just a handful of times in the entirety of the program of Social Security. But even then, with all of that, it's a pay-as-you-go system. So even if Social Security were to have $0 in the trust fund, it has almost $3 trillion right now. It has $0. You still have 77% of Social Security benefits being paid in every year in tax dollars for the people that are drawing the benefit out. Yeah. And so it's different than a business going out of business or bankrupt. It's still got that pay in capital every single year. And probably one final note I would say, and we cover this quite a bit, the generations that are drawing Social Security are the large of the population, and also the highest percentage in those populations of people who care to go and vote. As you kind of get to the younger populations, you don't see as many voting percentage. And so it would really be a politician's death wish to go in and just cut people at the knees on their Social Security who go on the doorstep taking it.
It reminds me of back in the day when you were talking about 2007, 2008, when the banks were failing and the government stepped in and said they're too big to fail. Well, it seems to me that Social Security is too big to fail, and the political side of things, like you just mentioned, they're probably not going to want to, tip the apple cart. And so don't listen to the headlines, just keep plugging away, knowing that, we got to make a plan for that. And that's the strategy you need to look at. And I think that a lot of times people think, I'm going to go Google, when should I claim Social Security? And, I saw this article, click, claim. But the problem is if you claim the wrong way, that could be a real detriment. So what's the real cost of claiming the wrong way? And then let's talk about, does it make sense for some people to delay?
Yeah. Really powerful question. And to illustrate just a little bit of an idea of what it means to claim the wrong way, I ask people when we do our educational classes, how much money would you guess every year annually is left on the table because people don't claim it properly or don't know how to claim? And the number astounds people. It's over $11.5 billion gets left on the table every year.
Wow.
And that's billions with a B. And so when you have all of these different ways to claim, there's thousands of combinations of ways you can claim and coordinate, and survivor's benefit, spousal benefit, annual earnings test, all of that. And so what you really need is a powerful software to make sure you can get ultimate clarity on what are your top 3 options. And then you can see it and feel it and see what the impact is in your retirement. And you'll know with confidence at that point what is the best way to claim very clearly. But you don't want to claim the wrong way. Like I said, $11.5 billion left on the table every year. That's pretty powerful.
And also, isn't it something where once you claim it, it's irrevocable and you can't just go, oh, no, just kidding, I'll need to change it next year or the next year. I know there might be like a one-off exclusion, but for the most part, isn't it something where you better know your plan, know why you have that plan, make the claim, and know that it's set in stone?
Yeah, exactly right, Mike. And the thing is while there are many times where you've claimed it does become irrevocable. However, if you've already claimed and you're thinking, well, could I maximize the benefit? A lot of times you still might have some options. Of course, you're going to have much more limited options than if you just claim the right way in the first place. But there are some options where if you've claimed within 12 months, you can actually pay back everything you've claimed and redo it and rescind it as if you've never claimed before, and put all your options back on the table. Many times people, I've seen a lot of people use this before they've even taken one payment. It takes 2-3 months for Social Security to process their application, but they've changed their mind in that time frame, and then they can do it differently. Or one other one is you're already claiming early. You can decide to delay that, stop your Social Security at full retirement age. Most people would be 67 years old. And then you can get the 8% increases. They're called delayed retirement credits that happen all the way till 70. But largely, Mike, I think the biggest thing is to get it done right the first time, so you're not leaving money on the table.
Because there might be this deadline you miss, or you got to pay back that, so it becomes a headache. So just kind of like the old saying, measure twice, cut once.
Exactly right.
Hey, so I know that when you think about retirement strategy, Social Security is one of the bullet points in there, but it becomes something where it's a big piece of a coordinated retirement income strategy. What are some of the mistakes you find that a lot of people are making when they're viewing Social Security as just that one-off and not as part of the overall retirement plan?
Yeah, that's something that comes up quite a lot, actually. And I would say a couple of things. Key points are taxes. So Social Security lives kind of on its own island as it comes to taxes, and it's treated very differently. On one hand, you've got to be very aware it's called provisional income. So it's a whole different calculation for Social Security. It even factors in tax-exempt interest like municipal bonds that increases your Social Security taxes. At the same time, Social Security can be positioned very strongly because it's a very tax favorable benefit. Some people have zero taxes. Some people are pushed into higher taxes depending on how the provisional income equation goes. But even in a very high income earning household, most of the time it works out to be somewhere around 50% of your Social Security will still be tax free. So coordinating and positioning that to say, well, how do I work that with the other pillars of income? We have pensions and working wages if you're still working, and your assets is a large pillar for most people to draw off of. Coordinating how you do the taxes with your Social Security and the rest of your retirement plan could mean thousands and thousands of dollars to you, or cost you thousands of dollars depending on how you incorporate Social Security into the whole retirement picture.
Yeah. And so it becomes a piece of income tax. And it's almost like you, when you're playing chess and you make a move and you leave your finger on the piece going, okay, is this the right move? Let me look at all these options. Okay. Yeah, it is. Or, nope, I need to pull it back. So many times of what you've mentioned here, it's part of, you need to make sure you claim the right way at the right time. Make sure that all the taxation is handled correctly, and just make sure it's done before you pull the trigger. And I know that a lot of times there's a lot of choices, and I know we're just covering this from a 30,000 foot view, and you can do a 3-day weekend seminar on all of this and still not be, covering everything. But talk a little bit about how married couples or widows or divorcees optimize benefits, because there might be some things to at least keep in mind there, right?
Yes, there is. And this is a situation where if you find yourself where you're a widowed person, or somebody that's in that position, this is a really, really powerful benefit that can provide a lot of protection and security for the widowed surviving spouse. And so what happens is as a survivor spouse, you get the higher of the two Social Securities. That's the first protection. So if you've got a Social Security example, one of you is drawing $2,000 a month, the other is drawing $3,000. The surviving spouse gets the $3,000 benefit, and the smaller $2,000 benefit will go away. And so that's great. But also, you need to know, as simple as that is, to let the Social Security program know that that's the election you want to make, or you could leave that money on the table. But here's where it gets a little bit of a layer of more complexity, but also much more benefit to the surviving spouse is you have a file and delay feature. So you can actually take as early as 60 years old, which is 2 years sooner than normal earliest claiming Social Security age, as a surviving spouse. And then you can claim your ex or your deceased spouse's benefit and let your own delay. And so you get to draw Social Security from age 60 all the way as far as you want to, but most people will take it all the way till 70. You get all the increases, all the 8% delayed retirement increases, past full retirement age, and you can be drawing the entire time, and then at 70 switch to your own benefit, which has grown massively, and get an even higher benefit for the remainder of your retirement.
So as you described that, I was just envisioning someone not understanding what you just said and doing it opposite. And that goes into some of those billions that go unclaimed every year because they didn't do things the right way. And so obviously, people should not just go, oh, I'm getting close to retirement. Let me go Google, when should I? Okay, here's what this click done. And also, I know that you can get a lot of information on the Social Security website or even at a local office. Talk a little bit about the differences between getting some information from the Social Security office or online versus someone like yourself that specializes in this and has the strategy, the kind of the whole picture in view of how it relates to retirement.
Yeah, Mike, I can speak to that a little bit as far as the data goes. So there's and these are approximates, because it's hard to get exact data on this, but this is about the numbers. If you were to go to the average John Doe, the average common person, and ask, a group of people, who here knows an in-depth way on how to claim Social Security and do Social Security planning, roughly about 5% of the average person would have that knowledge. So 95%, most people wouldn't really have a good idea of what is the best way to not leave money on the table with Social Security. Well, where it gets interesting is financial professionals. So you have CPAs, tax attorneys, HR people, financial advisors, and financial professionals alike. Only about 14% of financial professionals have an in-depth understanding on how to claim Social Security. So to put that in perspective, 86% of financial professionals don't have an idea of how to tell you how to claim to maximize your benefits to the fullest. And so what that means is it's hard to find information. And one final note on that is the Social Security Administration themselves. You can look up their operations manual online, and the clerks there are not allowed to give you any advice. You can look that right up online, and that's kind of wild if the Social Security office itself can't give you that advice. So I think it is really important. We've been doing this for almost 2 decades to really find somebody who it's in their daily scope. This is what they work on a day in, day out, week in, week out basis to make sure you maximize your benefits.
And I think, my opinion, the scary part of that 86% stat you mentioned of the advisors that don't have that deep, in-depth view of Social Security, of how it fits into retirement. What percentage of those will tell their clients that they do and they understand it, but they really don't? You know what I'm saying? So there's really no way to quantify that, but it's really hard to find someone that really knows in depth how to do everything the right way for your benefit so that it's sequentially bringing you the highest benefit with the most tax benefit for your retirement, and, resist the urge to just ask your friend at work or go Google. Find someone that knows exactly how this fits into the overall plan and talk to them. And to your point about the computer printout, you're not going to sit there and say to someone, here's what you must do, and they're staring off into space confused. You're going to show a printout going, here's option 1, 2, and 3. What feels good to you? And let's talk through each one and answer the questions.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. Mike, there's really two in the financial advisory world, from my perspective, and largely looking at everything from 18 years of experience, there's kind of 2 categories of financial advisors. For the most part, you have accumulation and then distribution. So accumulating would be your working years, you're building up retirement, and then your distribution would be retirement years. You're starting to distribute or take out that money for income and retirement. And those are 2 wildly different spaces. And most advisors are accumulation or kind of generalist advisors. They're there to grow money, and many of them do a very good job at doing that. Now, that being said, is if they've got clients that are getting to the point where they're going to need to start turning that into distribution and put a whole different plan together for how to use that money that they've accumulated, they're in a totally different climate. They're not contributing anymore. They're not working anymore. They don't have time on their side. They've got Social Security, taxes, and all these other things that come into play. And of course, if you're going to give an advisor the benefit of the doubt, which I usually like to do, they're going to want to try and help you. And they're going to want to try and help you the best that they can. But it's kind of like a doctor. You've got your medical team, And if your primary care doctor said, hey, maybe he's even one of the best primary cares in the country. He said, hey, you're going to need heart surgery, and I think that I can do it for you. And now maybe he could, maybe he's just, could pull that off, but, probably doesn't make you feel too comfortable to have your primary care doctor performing heart surgery. You would go to
I'll give it a shot.
And so that's what we are. We're a specialist. This is what we specialize in. And that's where you can enjoy the previous season of your life working with somebody who got you to where you're going. But now you want to get through retirement safely, and you want to have a specialist doing what we do best, fitting that into your retirement plan.
Perfect. Well, Curtis, if someone is interested in learning more about what some of their Social Security claiming and strategy options are, what's the best way they can reach out and connect with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a fun interactive website that gives some really good information. We've gotten a lot of feedback that they really value all the content we put on there, because we try to just bring you value. So our website is www.gosbc.net. That's GOSBC.net. And then if you'd like to search SBC Financial, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all of those as well. Our website is a really good central location, though.
Perfect. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.